we have now a real treat in studio as we are joined by the one and only Hikaru Nakamura. Hikaru, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's been an interesting event, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts about what happened in this round. I would love to get your thoughts on how did you react to what was happening on the board between Report and Napalm Machine?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the thing is, fortunately, in my game, it was very dry from the start, so it wasn't like there was a moment where I could suddenly change something based on what was happening in the other game. But I mean, when I saw this position, I mean, obviously, White can take a repetition and make a draw, and with the time control the way it is with no increment, I mean, the more Richard thought and finally didn't take the draw, I had a feeling he was going to lose the game.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like a situation where he should probably think for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then either you just you go into it or you take the draw, but you make a decision right there and you leave yourself a bunch of time, because in the game it looked like he was probably okay, but he was already low on the clock like everybody else is against Nepo, and just fell apart, for lack of a better way of putting it.
We could. It's unfortunate this is the first interview we've been able to have in the event because there's just been so much that's happened. There, so many great games. I would love to talk to you about your victory versus Rajabov, the incredible game versus Ali Reza Firouzja. So I'm saying that because I don't know how to get into all those topics. I'm not sure we'll be able to. But I also would love if you analyze a little bit of this one with me, because you might be able to help me kind of close it out.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost what I would say is this tournament, it has some shades of actually the tournament that Fabiano won in St. Louis. Now, mind you, in St. Louis, Fabiano was the only player who was winning games, but when you have so many strong players, it feels like there are very few opportunities to win games.
Yep.
And all the opportunities seem to be in Nepo's game, and I guess to a lesser extent Fabiano's. I mean, he obviously got a bit of a gift from Ali Reza when Ali Reza went insane. But there are so few opportunities, it feels like all those opportunities are happening in one person's games, and there just aren't really, there isn't much to go around, I guess.
Well, talk about that, because I was talking about that with Robert earlier. I was saying that in some ways, obviously you have to play well to win a tournament like this, right?
Obviously.
But you also have to get opportunities, right? You have to, for lack of a better way to put it, not lucky necessarily, but there has to be a chance to push. And how much do you think a little bit of luck plays into who ultimately goes on to win these tournaments?
Well, I mean, I think you create your own luck, obviously. Jan has been moving very quickly, very confidently throughout the event, and so he's made his own luck. I mean, but yeah, there certainly is a factor. I think like today, for example, in my game, if the other Jan had been a little bit more aggressive, the game could have gotten really interesting. But instead, he just traded everything off on d5, and there was just nothing there at all, even though I think objectively I might have been a little bit worse if he hadn't done that. So it's what it is. But you know, every tournament is different, and I guess at the end of the day, you hope you'll get opportunities. If you don't, well, that's just life, really. If your opponents play well, I mean, I thought, for example, my game against Ding Lorenz is a perfect example where I had great preparation. I think I caught him by surprise, and then he played every best move. And I feel like, you know, for example, you look at like a game of Jan's, say someone finds all the best moves and makes a draw, it's a different situation, but they don't find the best moves, and then like in my case against Ding finds all the best moves. I mean, it's just, sometimes it seems very random, but I mean, to be fair, Jan has created a lot of his opportunities because of how quickly he's played and how confident he's been throughout. So it's not too much of a surprise, perhaps you could say.
Well said. Do you mind analyzing a little bit of this
with
me? Only because we're right when you came in, we're kind of in the time pressure moment where we've got 3 minutes for Rajabov to make 6 moves, and actually Bobby just playing F4. This is looking a little bit tougher by the move for Black.
Yeah, I mean, Timur decides, like this is another example. Timur decides to play a very random Sicilian out of nowhere.
We were super surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what he did was okay objectively, but he plays a random Sicilian out of nowhere instead of being like rock solid like he normally is. So again, sometimes if you want to call it luck or whatever, that plays a role. But still, Fabiano, I mean, I thought he was surprised in the opening, but he responded in a way that seemed very human. And I don't know where Timur went wrong, but it just looked like he ended up down a pawn. And maybe there's some way with his knight on d4 to simplify. I mean, I didn't really look at it very closely, but now it just looks, I mean, completely lost.
Any chance for Black to hold this? So if the knight moves King G6, or take me through what you're seeing here.
Well, the problem is, where's the counterplay, basically? I mean, you're not like, for example, say there were no A pawns on the board, and you were able to win the C pawn, you would have a passed B pawn. But with A and C versus A and B, I mean, basically, even if you get the C3 pawn at some point, your whole king side is collapsing. You just lose. Because you don't have a pass pawn on the queen side. So I mean, if Timur saves this, I mean, I'll gift 100 subs to the chess.com channel on Twitch because
Well,
there's just I don't see the counterplay basically. I mean,
Yeah.
where is the counterplay? The king's going to g6, and then you can slowly play g3, g4, h4,
right.
and I mean maybe even put the bishop on f3 at the right moment, put the rooks, stack the rooks on the d file, or put them on d4 and e1 even. I don't see it. I really don't see it here. This also looks bad, no, because now there's bishop d5, knight b6, bishop e6, and king g6, and ale to the up the king side.
Oh man.
No, I mean
Okay.
this is just terrible. No, I mean this should just be pretty cleanly winning. I mean,
If you put the knight on f8.
What is the time? Yeah, but knight f8, g4, rook d7. Oh yeah, and there's some kind of mate on h3 if I go rook d1, rook c3.
Oh, at the end of the line, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, still though,
I think I'm translating Hikaru right, and that you were quickly calculating. You have to be careful of this.
Yeah, because like rook e4 would be winning if there's not
Right,
there isn't
okay.
some rook h3, but rook h3 is
Okay,
checkmate,
cool.
so that would
would be bad.
very unfortunate. But I mean, the thing is, what is the time situation? Fabiano has
6 more moves to make in 3 minutes for Fabi, 2 minutes for Rajava.
Yeah, I mean, if Fabiano doesn't blunder before time control, he's going to win this game.
Yeah.
Because if he gets to move 40, then he's going to have an hour to think and
Right.
calculate all the very long lines, and he'll find something and he'll win the game. So basically, if Fabiano doesn't blunder the next 6 moves, he's going to win this game.
Is that ever in your head at this point? I mean, are you still always trying to just play the most accurate move next, or are you sometimes like, okay, just it's like possession in like NFL, just hold on to the ball to get to move 40? Are you ever thinking like that here?
Well, it's tricky because the time control, there's no increment. I mean, as I've said many times, every tournament that I play has increment except this one. So it's a little bit odd that you don't have increment, because when you're getting those 30 seconds, if you run your clock down to like 5 seconds, you make the move, you get 30 seconds, you can think. But if you make a move and you're down to like 5 seconds and you don't have the next move planned, you're in big trouble.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's a situation where you kind of just like have to make some moves, although now it's getting tricky. Just like I said, it's getting a little bit tricky here, isn't it?
Yeah, Fabiano didn't play your bishop d5 move. That probably was a little more accurate. So now he has to figure out how to deal with c3.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the eval bar says white is winning. I mean, I can see that, but yeah, I mean, this is very unpleasant suddenly. What's it have? 227, so
227, minute 29, 4 moves to make.
Yeah, and the problem is like rook d8. If knight c3, you don't have rook d6 because your bishop hangs on e4. If you could go rook 3 d6, you'd mate next move, but bishop's hanging.
Okay, so he plays
king g6. Okay.
Rajabov takes the pawn. No
Yeah,
hesitation.
but see now there's going to be counterplay because you're going to get passed pawns on the queen side. That's great. I spoke too soon. So yeah,
no, but that was the idea you were pointing out. That's actually super important. And how does white break through here? Because you got to get something on the 7th rank before g7 can fall.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to go, what, bishop f3, knight a2, rook d7 or something, and maybe it's still winning. But again, it's getting messy. Yeah. I mean, Timur's going to get counterplay here. He's going to get at least get a hope. Whereas I don't think he should have gotten any of this counterplay. So he's going to at least get a hope. I mean, I still, again, obviously I can see the bar, so I can tell that it's lost. But I mean, considering how bad the position was, at least you have a glimmer of some kind of counterplay here.
And he's going for it. Knight a2. Yeah, that means that the chat has a glimmer of hope that Hikaru's going to gift 100 subs. So watch out, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, again, I still think Fabiano should win this. I mean, rook d7. Yeah, rook d7, b4, king g7, knight c3. I mean, it should be winning. It should be winning, but yeah, it's just somehow it feels
scary.
Because you could also lose this now. Like because if you go like king f6, b3, for example, and then you trade rooks and go rook d2, then I go a5, a4, and just like that, I think you might be lost. Okay, I mean, computer says white's still okay, but yeah, it gets very, very messy, very messy out of nowhere. So I mean, yeah, it looks like
one move now to make with 1 minute for both players, roughly. Yeah,
I mean, this move is very obvious. I mean, you just go b4, knight c3. I mean, with some combination. Which one do you play?
Plays knight c3 first.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and this is also dangerous because now, I mean, there's no increment in second control. So like if Fabiano thinks, which I expect him to think for like 20 or 30 minutes after king g7, b4, he's still going to have to use time on every single move. So yeah, I mean, you assume he'll find a way, but I really wouldn't. I wouldn't like this position. I wouldn't like to be white here. Based on the trajectory of the way the game is going versus where we are now, I would not have I would not be happy if I was Fabiano here. I would not be happy at all with this.
But he's got 30 seconds to find one more move. Once he does, we'll probably will take a breath and have a couple more questions with the man Hikaru here. But don't go anywhere, everybody. We still have 2 games in progress in this round, and King G7 B4. Wow, Raja has the time, but he plays it anyway. No, okay,
actually he did. That was move 40,
okay.
right? Yeah, but I mean, this is going to be very, very tricky here.
You know it's stressful when both players get it. It doesn't matter whose move it is, right? They're like, all right, let's take a break.
Yeah, I mean, what the computer says you can go King F6, B4, Rook D2, and then just run the king and go F6, F7, I guess. But
King F6.
Yeah, I mean, this probably will happen. On B3, and then I think you go Rook D2, and Black's just too slow, because A5, King G6, A4, F6, A3, F7, the F pawn, E6? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said that. I was just moving.
Yeah, I said G6, but I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, either way. Yeah, and you're just too fast here, I guess. It's just one tempo. So Fabiano, I mean, actually, I assume he'll find this. Because it's not that hard, because Black doesn't have many moves here either. I mean, if you get to this position after, this is the position right now, right?
Yeah,
so after King F6, B3, Rook D2, A5 is the only move. Because you're just going to go, I mean, you have a clear plan, move the king, E6, G6, and just push the pawn up the board. So it's actually not so hard to calculate. Because Black doesn't have alternatives, so as long as you can see that you can move the king, yeah, Fabiano should win this game.
All right, well, let's back out real quick, because you made a comment, if I'm quoting it correctly. I heard that you said that you thought if there was increment, Raja might have held that game against you. Here we have a game that without increment obviously had a lot more drama. What are your thoughts on the time control in general, and obviously the fact that it doesn't line up with what you've consistently played, but if it wasn't for that, are you generally okay with it? Just give me your thoughts on it.
I mean, the game changes. I mean, I'll say this: I think I would have beaten Nepo if there was increment. I think if there was increment, I probably would have kept the game going, even though I'd already thrown it away to some degree with this whole knight b3, bishop c3. If I have 7 minutes there and I'm getting 30 seconds every move, I probably still play on quite a bit. But without the increment, it's a completely different ball game. So that's another game that I think would have gone differently if the time control was different. I think it's just weird, because I think all of us are so used to playing with increment, whether it's the World Rapid and Blitz, Rapid or Blitz, or classical chess, whatever it is. I think about people like Grishchuk without increment. I mean, that guy, he probably would have lost like 50 points in the last 2 years or something. Yeah, exactly. He would have lost so many of his games in those scrambles. But I mean, you adjust to it, obviously. I think it's just the main thing is if you get below a certain point, a certain amount of time, you just have to go with it. Actually, I would say it's very similar to the RCC, which I played on chess.com. The first day it's 10-0, and then on the second day it's 10 plus 2. And like on the first day, there's a certain amount of time, I would say somewhere around like 2.5 to 3 minutes, where if it's headed towards an end game, you just have to go into it. You can't really calculate at that point. So yeah, it's difficult getting used to it, and I think in a tournament like this where everybody's so well prepared, there are going to be a lot of surprise in the opening, so it definitely adds to the drama. I think for spectators it's probably better. I think for the players it's much worse. So it cuts both ways, is what I would say about the time control.
I'm gonna ask the overarching question, because we were unfortunately not able to have you after some of the earlier games. Just give me your quick synopsis, if you would, on how you feel you played through the first half of the candidates here in Madrid, both your form and maybe some of the critical moments. How do you feel that things have gone?
I mean, I think I've played excellently. I think if I look at my result, it's about where I should be. Maybe I could be on +1 if I had beaten Jan. But I think I've played well. Fabiano, of course, I made this one very big error, castling kingside, when I shouldn't have in the first round. Maybe I shouldn't have lost that game. At the same time, you could probably argue that I could have lost to Ali Reza, so I think that's pretty much a wash. I've played well. I can't complain. Certainly, if there's one thing I would say, I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, obviously, the tournament still has a long way to go, but I am a little bit surprised at perhaps the preparation from some of the players. It doesn't feel like they necessarily used all this time to find a lot of great ideas, I guess is what I would say. I mean, I think Richard, for example, I'm a little bit surprised by what he's done throughout this event. I mean, Ding Loren, I guess, didn't have much time, but Ali Reza also, it doesn't seem like he, has come up with a lot of really brilliant opening ideas, the way I would have expected, considering he had like 9 months to literally prepare for this tournament, and only this tournament.
Yeah, so he hadn't played much.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that's maybe the one surprise to me. But overall, I'm happy with my play. I mean, if people like Jan are just going to win every game, there's not much that I can do about that. I mean, you can only concentrate on your own game. So,
what are your thoughts on that? I mean, as you look at moving to the back half, and obviously the storyline is right now, who's going to stop Jan? Can anybody at this point? 5.5 out of 7. It's one of the best scores ever there. So what will be your approach going up against him, and what do you think is going through all the players' minds right now?
Well, first thing I would say is, I said this on my stream. So to me, this is no surprise. I literally said on my stream multiple times, the odds makers, I don't know what they're talking about. They have Ding and Ollie Reza doing a favorite.
We were saying, like, if there was real money in betting on chess at this point, we would be making a lot of money, because the odds makers definitely had this wrong.
Well, I said it multiple times. I thought there were two clear favorites, Fabiano and Jan, because they're the two players who have played this tournament and won this tournament, so they have a lot of experience in it. Whereas Ding, he only played the last time, and sure, you can say what you want about COVID and perhaps being stuck in a bit of a lockdown before the event, but he didn't perform well last time. So I thought he and Ollie Reza were a little bit of outsiders, perhaps. I think just drawing on my own experience from playing in the candidates in 2016, I was very nervous. I slept horribly. It was a very, very rough event for me. At a certain point, I was on -2. I did win a couple of games in a row to get back to even, but I was never really in contention, and the pressure just kept building every day. Whereas this time, I don't really feel any pressure at all. I'm just trying to play good chess. So it's night and day for me. And having had that experience, I think certainly for someone like Ollie Reza, who's never played before, it's a lot to expect him to suddenly play really, really well, considering that the stakes are so different than any other event he's played in. So for me, it's not a surprise. Can someone stop Jan? Obviously it's possible. Fabiano, if he wins this game, he's also going to be on +3, so he'll be half point behind. But yeah, I think one of those two guys have the best
while we
chance.
have Hikaru in here, because I want to ask one more question. I don't want people to be mad that we don't have the boards up. We're going to keep Hikaru here because he's an awesome interview. So that way people don't get mad about where that's going. I want to ask you about that. So what you said about Ollie Reza, another storyline everyone was talking about, not just the pressure on him, the comments Magnus made, but then the fact that he kind of disappeared for the last 6 months, and now we've seen some difficulties for him coming out of the gate. Like, what would be your assessment of what's kind of going on there, as Ferrugia seems to be struggling a little bit with his form?
There are a couple of things. First thing is that I think, actually, again, drawing on my own experience from 2016, when you put all your eggs in one basket and it's all about this one tournament, it really does feel like every single game there's this massive pressure on you. And I think Ollie Reza and probably his father and his brother, they perhaps didn't realize just how much pressure it's going to be. And then secondly, as well, like when we talk about the pressure, I've said this many times on my stream, the candidates generally is a tournament where people play the worst, objectively. If you look at the quality of the play, the blunders that you see, for example, Bishop H2 that Radjabov missed, if this is, I'm just going to use a tournament, there's nothing against a tournament. If it's a tournament like Norwich has, Radjabov finds a move. He finds a move in 5 seconds, no issues whatsoever, but suddenly in the candidates, he doesn't find it. I made this huge blunder. Richard didn't win that game against Ollie Reza, and so it's just a different beast completely when you play in the candidates.
Is it just because of the pressure of what's at stake?
Yeah, it's the only tournament where you finish second and you feel like you've finished in last place. Only tournament that you can do that. You can gain 10 points, finish in second place. I think like Fabiano in 2016 when he finished second after Sergey who won the event. He felt terrible, but I think he had a very good event overall. It was great, but finished second, it's just a huge failure. Right. So. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned for Ollie Reza. Certainly as well, it's also a different tournament because players have a lot more time to prepare. For example, if I look at the Grand Prix, which I played in Berlin, I maybe did like a little bit of casual prep the week or 2 weeks before the event, and that was all I did. Yeah. But here everybody has months to prepare, so it's much harder to find surprises and catch people off guard. And I think that also makes it a lot different, and a lot more challenging in many ways. So. Yeah. I'm sure he'll learn from it, but it's certainly something that I think you should just kind of try to play, just try to keep some sort of routine and not bet everything, not bet the whole house on this one event, because certainly it hasn't gone his way.
Great answers, Hikaru. You're an awesome interview. I have one more question I want to ask, and then we'll let you. If Fabiano is to go on and win,
I
can
just stay here. I can stay here for another 10, 15 minutes.
This is awesome to have you here, and it's great thoughts, great content, right? As you know, you're the biggest chess streamer in the world. If Fabiano does go on to win this game, and the storyline becomes, with all due respect, that you kind of have a 2-horse race going, right? Does that change your approach to how you play them? Does it change other players' approaches? What's going through the other 6? You guys are all, can I say badasses at what you do? You're all badasses. So but now you got 2 guys that are leading. Are you going to change your approach against them?
I mean, we'll see. I play Fabiano tomorrow, so probably it's better if I don't answer that super clearly. But I think there is one thing that is a problem with the format, which is that, as everybody knows, the prizes are based on every half point you score. So if you end up in a situation where only 2 players are in the running for first place, there's some incentive for the other players to not particularly give it their best effort, considering how much money there is for every game in a sense. As far as my approach, I mean, we'll see whether I change something or I don't change something. But as I've said before, I'm just going to play my own game. If things break my way, that's great. I mean, it doesn't seem like they are, but I just keep playing.
You keep playing your game, and you don't rule out the idea that you might be able to put a few wins together, right? I mean, you never think about it like it's over.
Actually, that's the thing is when I played in 2016, it was a very bad event because I started off, I think. I lost. I mean, I drew my first game to Fabiano. I think I lost in round 2, or maybe it was round 3 to Sergey. And then two or three rounds later, I also lost to Levon. So I was very quickly on -2 at the halfway mark. Yeah. And I mean, it felt like the world was ending. Just really, really miserable. I was not in a good mood. And then I was able to sort of catch lightning in a bottle and win 2 games in the middle against Topolov and Anand. Not in the middle, sorry, towards the end. But I won 2 games in a row, and suddenly, just like that, it was a completely fine result. So. Yeah. I mean, you kind of just take it one game at a time. You hope something happens. I mean, today actually I was a little bit optimistic for about one moment that I might get some chances, but then Duda just killed the game. So, yeah. It's what it is. But it's fun to play, and it's I'm enjoying it.
I'll bring it to a close there to make sure we catch some of the final moments and kind of whatever. Although.
You're going to get a 20-minute think here by Fabiano, so it's not.
That's like probably true. So that's all right. I am going to get one more question out of Ricardo. Go back. I want people to see Fabiano's game because I want to get his answer to this. Because is there? You made a comment.
I've played Fabiano 100 times. He's gonna think for 20 or 30 minutes here, and he's gonna calculate it move by move, and then he's gonna blitz out like 4 or 5 moves.
And he's gonna win. There you go.
And probably he's gonna win as long as he finds
the right. There's foreshadowing from Ricardo. Last question, and this is the last. I want to say you made comments about the format. Obviously, the incentive potentially not being able to draw. There's another hot take here, which is that, with all due respect to Richard Rapport as a creative, genius in many ways, a very strong player, exciting, and I applaud the idea that he would play that position for a win because he cares about his chances, not others. But the hot take is his loss in a round robin is very different than him taking his fate into his own hands in a knockout, right? And if you're looking at a format. Is it fair to the other players if someone makes a reckless decision in hindsight because of the round-robin format versus a knockout where you're only responsible for your own life? If you screw up, you're out of the tournament. So your thoughts on that format comparison?
I mean, I think he's tried to take his chances against many players. Some of them just haven't capitalized. I mean, you could say the same thing about his game against Timur. I mean, it was completely fine, and then he made a one-move blunder and should have lost that game, and he didn't. I mean, I think. It's really you roll the dice. A situation like today, he's rolling the dice, but I really felt that without the increment, he had to make a decision, just make a decision after 15, 20 minutes and not just think. I think he thought for 40 or 15 minutes at that moment, and you just make the decision. You live and die by the sword, kind of. I don't think you can say it's reckless. I mean, it's obviously he's trying to play his best, but it certainly. I guess what you'd say is that it feels weird when against Jan he does that, when you have a feeling that against someone, I'm not going to say like myself, but someone who's in the middle of the pack, like let's say myself, say, I don't know, Ding or someone, he's actually probably less likely to take that risk. But it's what it is. And I can't really fault him for the decision. I think it was just he should have made the decision much sooner. He should have thought for 20 minutes, make the decision, and then he would have had more time to figure it out. Although, to me, it seemed very, I don't know, it seemed insane to do it because I saw 0 winning chances and only losing chances with the queen versus the 2 rooks. I mean, I feel like, actually, on that note, I feel like I've had probably at least like 3 or 4 games against Fabiano, and actually not in Classical, but like in Rapid and Blitz, one in Classical, I guess, but where he's had the queen, I've had the rooks, and it's just been like a queen against 2 rooks, those type of ones, and somehow Fabiano just holds it with the queen. And so having had those experiences, when I was looking at the Jan game, I was just like, there's no way that the rooks are ever going to beat the queen there. Right. And so it seemed like an attempt to lose. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of pressure. A lot of things probably were going through his mind. So that's what fair. It is.
All right, man. thank you for being here. This was awesome.
Yeah, no worries.
You're awesome. Your stream is awesome. Shout out to everyone tuning in here. You can also go check out Hikaru's channel, which is live as we speak as well. I'm sure you'll be joining that soon.
Yeah,
at some
of course.
point.
Yeah,
So everyone,
that's the content.
go check out Hikaru joining his own channel here probably in the next, little bit. But well, it's awesome to have you here. Awesome to have you in Madrid. We'll hopefully catch up with you again at some point. We still got 7 more rounds to go.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So we're gonna head to break here. Round
Can
7.
I say one last thing though? I will say that at some point, like in the last day or two, I've started getting a little bit antsy, and I'm just like, I am kind of counting down the days till I can actually get back to streaming. I do have to say that.
So you miss it. You miss the community. You miss it.
I mean, I think it's like 10 days or 9 or 10 days, and so I am actually in my mind counting down and getting kind of excited about that return. I have to say.
Cool. Well, your videos have also been incredible, by the way. There's never been someone playing at this level giving that type of insight and content. So it's been anyway. All right.
I'll just say one thing on that too, though. I mean, it's not unprecedented, though. I mean, sure, the medium for doing it is different, but I mean, I remember in '95 game. I think it was game 10, the one that Gary won against Vishy, the very famous Open Spanish with the whole Knight G5 sack. The towel sack and everything else. I think he wrote up an analysis of that the day after for USA Today. So I mean, it was for a newspaper. It wasn't like for the internet per se. But I still think it's quite similar, and so I don't think it's like that unprecedented or that unheard of. And also for this event, everybody's done so much prep that I don't think that, say, as long as I'm careful with what I say about the openings, it's not really taking away from the overall my overall.
And is it helpful for you? Do you enjoy it? It's like good therapy a little bit?
Oh, I mean, I love it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're all here to try and raise awareness for the game, and I think the fact that I'm doing that, giving people insight, it's something no one else is doing, and so yeah, I enjoy it, and it's fun. Cool. So it's all good fun.
We enjoy it as well. The fans do, and on that note, we will officially let you get to it on your own stream, and eventually a video later on Hikaru's YouTube channel, which you'll want to check out. So.